Hi guys, this is Mitch with Fine Point CGI, and today we're going to talk about how to create a character controller inside of Godot. Now, the character controller is going to be allowed to jump 2 times. It's going to allow it to run left and right. We're going to add the ability to have gravity, and we're going to attach a camera to it. So it's going to be a pretty simple tutorial this time around. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now that I'm in Godot, the first thing you'll notice is that I am going to be using the same level that I created in the previous basics tutorial, which if you haven't seen it, I have a link up in the little doobly-doo above. And yeah, so if you haven't done this one, go ahead and check this out first, and then come back to this tutorial. So first, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and create a kinematic character. So we'll right click here, we will add a child node, we'll type in kinematic body 2D. And you'll see that it yells at you and says that you need to add in some kind of collision box. So if we come over here and right click and do collision shape 2D, we double click that, you'll see that we now have another triangle. We need to make a shape. If you remember my previous videos, I've talked about the need to create these kinds of shapes. So if we add in a capsule shape, and if I focus in on this, you can see what we're kind of building here. And let's make it a little on the smaller side, something like that, as kind of like our character. What we're also going to do is we will add in a sprite, just so that we have something to look at. So we'll add in that as a texture, and we'll use the Godot icon as our little character. So let's make it a little bigger, something like this. And let's change our shape to be a touch bit bigger, like that. Kind of encompass that character. So now, what you're going to see is if we go ahead and right click on this and attach a script, we're going to call it character controller. And we're going to go ahead and do our physics process from here. So in Godot, we have this thing called func_physics process delta, and what that is it calculates every single physics frame, which is on the CPU versus on the GPU. It calculates on every single physics frame the movement of the character. This will mean that no matter what your frame rate in the game, it will always feel the same way. So we'll do a move and collide, and what we're going to do is we're going to say 0,1, and what that's going to do is it's going to so what we're going to do is we're going to do a move and collide, and we're going to say it needs to be a vector to 0,1. So what does that actually do? Well, if I go back to my 2D game here, and I move this little character, so if we click and drag him, yeah. So if we click and drag him over here like this, that should be correct. And we go ahead and hit play. And let's go ahead and save it as character controller. And I think I spelled character controller wrong. But you'll see suddenly he is falling through the world. But he's falling, which is good. That's what we want. So that's a good first sign. But he's falling through the world. Well, why is he falling through the world? Well, if we go back to our tile map, you'll notice that if we click on our little tile set that we created here, we open that up, you'll notice that when we click on collision, we actually don't have any collision. See that? So let's go ahead and add collision to these objects. So you'll see me run through here real quick. And the question of why would you not want to do this to just all tiles, like just make all tiles collidable, is because there are things called decal tiles that you don't necessarily want collision on. And also, you don't want to calculate collision for every small little tile in the project. You want to do it for any tile that the user is going to be on, or any monster is going to be on, but you don't want it to be on all tiles, because it's just it's just wasted CPU computation time. So you'll see that we got collision here. I don't believe we have any of that. Okay. So now if I hit play, you'll see it fall and then it lands. See how he stops right there. Now this is really far away, so let's go ahead and add in a camera. I don't think I've ever really talked about cameras, but if we zoom out, you'll see if I select camera, you'll see how big this camera actually is. And we don't want the camera to be that large, so let's go ahead and increase our zoom to 0.2 and 0.2. And let's go ahead and attach it to the character. And let's make it follow character. So let's do that. Now if I hit play, you'll see that so now you'll see that we need to hit current, and then we'll go ahead and hit play. And you'll see that now that is the current physics process. Now, we have the character falling when we hit play. Very exciting. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on our character script, and we are going to go ahead and add in our movement system. So what we're going to do is we will do our let's see. Now what we're going to do is we need to make this a constant variable here, right? So const gravity is equal to about 200 or so. And then we're also going to create a variable that is called velocity, which will be equal to a vector 2. Now, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do velocity y is equal to our gravity. Or I'm sorry, is equal plus. My apologies. Or plus equals delta, which is our time, times gravity. And then what we need to do is we need to do var motion is equal to velocity times delta. So that way we can determine how fast this person's moving down, and we can determine further motion, so we can actually add and minus to this motion. So if we actually go here and change this to motion, you notice that not much has changed for us. Oh, whoops. Hit this one. The character still seems to just fall. So we now need to get it so that you can move. So what we can do is we can go to our project settings and our inputs, our input mapping here, and we can take a look at UI right and UI left. Where is that? There it is. So you can see that it's left and right here on our pad here. I'm going to also go ahead and add a key called D for right, and for left I'm going to go ahead and add a key A, and we will go ahead and save that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say velocity y if input shift I input dot is action just pressed, and then we'll say UI underscore, or I guess quote UI right. Then I want you to do velocity dot x equals a number. So let's give it a number of, I don't know, 100, let's say. Now, in the spirit of not wasting lots of time, what we'll do is we'll just copy this, and then we will go ahead and paste this. UI left instead, and we will make this minus 100. And then we're going to say else if everything, actually, elif, and then else, I want velocity to be 0. Dot x is equal to 0. And that should about do it for us. And you can see the characters now moving extremely slow on the left and the right side. So now the question is, why is that a problem? Well, because what's going on is we are actually multiplying our velocity by our delta here. And instead of doing, but why? So instead of doing move and collide, what we're going to do is we're going to do a move and slide velocity, comma, vector 2, 0, comma, minus 1. Now you'll see when I go ahead and run this, what's going to happen is the game's going to allow me to move left and right without having any issues. Now, let's go ahead and add kind of a jump, because you can see that right now we can't jump. So what we can do is we can close this. And we need to add a if input action just pressed jump, right? So let's go to our project settings, and let's go ahead and do a jump action. Let's go ahead and add that. And if we say jump is a key, space, all right. And then we can go here and we can say if input dot is action is underscore, oh, it's because my input's not capital INPUT. Ace action just pressed jump. Then I want velocity dot y to plus equals delta. Actually, let's go with 100. Let's just do 100 for funsies. Oops, wrong one every time. Now you'll notice that it doesn't really do anything though. Doesn't matter even if I hold it, it doesn't really seem to do anything. So what we need to do is we need to say instead of plus equals 100, just say it equals 100. Now let's see what that does instead. So if I reset this, you'll notice that it, again, doesn't seem to do anything. So now you'll notice it really doesn't do anything when I hit the spacebar, right? You can probably hear me hitting the spacebar, but you can see it really doesn't do anything. Now the reason why is because we need to actually do minus 100 velocity, because remember, you're pulling it down on the y-axis, so you need to pull it up on the y-axis. So if I go ahead and hit play, hit the spacebar now, you can see that the character can now jump. So now I can run around like this and have a grand old time. Now, the problem that we're running into now is the user can actually jump and then jump again and jump again and again. And again, and you can see that the user can basically jump forever. I mean, you can see they can go effectively jumping forever. So what we need to do is we need to have a if here. If. So we need to type is underscore on floor, and then that will allow you to go ahead and jump. So now you can see, if I go ahead and do that, jump, but I can't jump a second time. Even if I'm pressing space multiple times, you can't jump multiple times. But what if I wanted to allow a double jump? Well, the easiest way to allow a double jump, and I know this is kind of past the gist of this, but what we can do is we can say, we can pull this out like this, and we can say is on floor ready to jump is equal to true. And then we're going to add a variable up here at the top here, ready to jump. And we're going to default, well, we don't need to default it. So what we can do is we can go ahead and say if input action just press jump, if ready to jump, then go ahead and do the velocity going up. And now if we do ready to jump is equal to false, now we have just achieved the exact thing that we achieved beforehand, where you can only jump once. But if we do if, and actually what we'll do is we will take it out of here and we will say var number of jumps. And we'll say down here, if number of jumps is greater than or equal to 2, or actually, I'm sorry, less than or equal to 1, then I'm going to allow the person to jump. You can see if I do that. And then I'm going to say that else ready to jump is equal to false. And that should about do it. So now if I go ahead and do that, oh, and we have a compiler error, well, a running error. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable up here, and we're going to set it to 0. And then we need to do number of jumps is equal to 0 as well. Now, if we take a look at it, you'll notice that we're still jumping continuously, or able to jump continuously. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a number of jumps plus equals 1, and that will allow it to increment our number of jumps. So now let's check it out. And there you go. So we can now jump twice, but we can no longer jump more than twice. So what if we want to go ahead and add a dash? Well, what we can do is we can go up to the top, and we're going to need to add a couple of variables here. So the first thing that we're going to add is we're going to say var dash, because we need to determine if they're currently dashing. So I'll say var dash, var dash time. I'll call it current dash time. And we'll equal that to 0. And then I will say const dash time. And we'll make that 1 second so they can dash for a second. You can set this to whatever you would like, but that's what I'm going to set mine to. And we're going to add in a var able to dash. All right. So now that we have all of that, what we can do is we need to process all of this when we're not dashing. Because remember, dashing, it allows the character to basically not be attached to gravity, if that makes sense. So you don't want them to fall down while they're dashing. So the first thing I'm going to say is, hey, if you're not dashing, so if not dash, then I want all of this code to run. Okay? Then what you need to do is you need to come down here and look at your UI right. Okay? So if input dot is, oh, I missed my capital I. Input dot is action just pressed. Dash, I want to dash. So I want to do velocity is equal to vector 2. And the reason why I want a vector 2 is because we can say, hey, if you just press dash, you're going to move by 200 and not move downwards. Because remember, we already calculated our velocity here for gravity, but we don't want the character to fall like this, right? We want them to fall like this and go straight. So now what we got to do is we got to do the same thing over here. And we're going to need to do an else and put that in here. So if they didn't press the dash button, then their velocity would be their normal speed. Okay. Now, if we go ahead and try this, I'll show you. So if we jump and hit dash, you'll notice that, well, nothing really seems to happen all that much, right? It kind of does something, but not really. Well, the reason why is because first, we're not setting our dash here, so all this code is running, so it's changing your velocity, right? So now that we are dashing, okay, we need to tell it if input action dash, we need to say dash is equal to true. Very simple. All right, now if I refresh this, we jump dash, you'll see that the character now dashes forever and doesn't fall, which is good. That's something that we want. Now we need to come down here and we need to get to the bottom of all of this, right? And we need to assume that if the character is dashing, so else the character's dashing, right? So we need dash underscore time because we need to time this out, right? So is equal to delta, which delta is the frame clock, I guess you could say. It's the time between frames that it's using to calculate time, if that makes sense. Did I not declare dash time? Oh, current dash time. Sorry about that. Current dash time. If current dash time is greater than or equal to dash time, then I want to tell it to first reset my current dash time. And then I need to tell it that we're no longer dashing. Like that. And then we need to set our velocity is equal to vector 2, 0, 0. So that way it completely resets our vector for that split second. So you have a split second of stopped velocity, and it'll improve the feel of your project. So you can see how it stopped them from dashing. See? Now you'll notice that no matter what, if you hit shift, you tend to go the same direction. That's because up here, I made a mistake where I said velocity's 200 versus minus 200. Now you'll also notice if I go ahead and hit play and I dash and then I go back and I dash, you'll notice that I can dash forever. See that? I can just dash forever. Now, that might be good for some games, but in this case, I don't want that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the ability able to dash is equal to false. Able to dash is equal to false. And I need to say, hey, if they hit this button, if they're able to dash, then I want them to be able to do this. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to force... Whoops, I need this actually above. Whoopsies. Now, I know that you see it. There's a lot of repeated code here, and I'm going to show you how to refactor this so it's way better, but we'll get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and we're going to say, hey, now able to dash is equal to true, because once that timeout happens, we want the user to be able to dash again, right? So let's go ahead and play this, and you'll see if I jump and dash, nothing seems to happen. Now, why is that? Well, because your able to dash is defaulted to false. So they are never able to dash. You see that? So what you can do is you could say is equal to true. And then now they can dash. And they can only dash, well, they were only supposed to be able to dash once. So that means that now I've got a problem here. So I got to figure out why. So let's go ahead and take a look at our code real quick. So able to dash is equal to false. If they click it, if they're able to dash, it does their velocity change. Able to dash is equal to false. So if we look at this, able to dash is equal to false. If current time. Let me take a look at this and let's see if I can figure it out real quick. I'll pause the video here for a second. Okay, so I figured it out. I was wrong. You're supposed to be able to put, instead of putting it down here in the else statement, we need to go ahead and put it up here on the is on floor. And the reason why is because we don't want the user to be able to dash a second time. We want the user to be able to only dash after they've touched the floor or potentially touched a wall. So you can actually do this if you did like an if is on wall, you could actually do a dash as well. And the same thing with your jumping. Actually, you could actually set up a like a wall jump feature if you said if is on wall. But we could definitely cover that in another video because at this point the video has gotten probably about 30 minutes long and I don't really want to keep you guys that long. So now that we have dashing working, what we need to do is we need to really refactor some of this code. Now, refactoring is when we reorganize our code to make more sense. And what I'm trying to say is if you look at all of this stuff here, this is all a lot of recycled code. And it's a good idea to try to pull recycled code out into its own function. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's go ahead and hit Control X and get rid of that and go function move player. And we'll take in a direction, I guess. Well, we'll go with speed. And then we will paste that code. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and take this code here. We're going to get rid of that as well. And we're going to say function dash. And we're going to put in a speed as well. And then what we're going to do is we are going to replace the speed here with this speed. And we're going to call it here with our speed, which, what was our original speed? Do you guys remember? 200. And actually, we'll do this. This is more functionally equivalent. There we go. So now when I do my move player, so up here, I do move player, and I need to give it a speed, so we'll say 200, comma, or I'm sorry, it's 100 for speed, and then dash speed is 200. And then I can take all of this code, get rid of it, and do move player minus 100, comma, minus 200. So now that's taken all of that code. Oops, and I need capital P. That's taken all that code and condensed it down into these two little functions here. And now what I can do is I can pull this out and I can say, let's call it process dash time. And we can make a function called process dash time. Whoops. Like this, and then we can paste that in there. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow your project to be more organized. It's going to be better off. And we need to pass in our delta also. Like that. Now you can see this is way more organized and way easier to read than what it was previously, right? So, and actually I do want that space there. I was thinking I'd get rid of it, but nah, I think I'll keep it. But you can see here, we've taken something that was huge and made it way smaller. Now also, what is good code? Good code always has comments. So this, like this, moves the player based off the speed and dash speed you put into the input bars. And what that'll do is it makes it more sense for you. You can read this later. It's better to comment your code and to so that you, when you come back in a week and not know what it does, now you actually will know what it does. So like this dashes the player in a direction that, or this dashes the player with the provided speed. And then you can do here process dash time. This processes the dash time so it can reset the player's dash. They may not be great comments, but what you need to do is you need to answer the question, why do I care about this function? And that's what your comment should answer, is why do I care about this function? And if you can't answer that with your comment, then you need to rewrite the function, because you should care about why it's a function. Okay, so now that we refactored everything, what we need to do, and if you see this is our current result, which is great, but you've noticed that the user doesn't actually slow down at all during their dash, right? So how do we make it so that they do slow down? Well, what we can do is we can do velocity is times equal log velocity is times equal exp for exponent of log 0.3, let's say, times delta. So what is that? What's that going to do, right? Well, what it's going to do is it's going to take velocity and multiply it by an abstraction, I guess you could say, of time. And that means that the user will slow down given some time. So let's go ahead and show you that real quick. So you can see how he now slows down, he or she, I guess, now slows down with time. But that's really all I have for you guys today. So what we talked about was how to make a basic 2D character controller. We talked about how to create a left and right moving system. We talked about how to do jumping. We talked about how to do dashing and the importance of refactoring your code. If you guys want to have me continue this little 2D character controller thing. We could talk about doing things like juicy feedback and animations, things like that. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. But again, that's really all I have for you. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you dislike this video, go ahead and hit that dislike button, because I really make these tutorials for you guys, and I want to do the things that you guys enjoy. So you can leave suggestions or anything like that in the comments below. Thanks.